going to give ourselves a few minutes to make sure that our partners at Metro Nashville Network are able to start our recording. So good afternoon, everyone. The Metro Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for the regularly scheduled meeting on July 7th, 2022. At this time, I'd ask everybody to please either silence or turn off your cell phone. I'm Elizabeth Waits, and as a member of the code staff, I'll be introducing the cases on public hearing today. We'll be presenting maps, photos, and site plans for each of the subject properties, and the information I present as well as the applications, recommendations from other government offices, and letters that we've received from members of the public will be part of the court's record for these proceedings. As a preliminary matter, we'd like to make one announcement. Case number 2022-77 is being deferred today. That case will be back on the docket on July 21st. And as a reminder to anyone, we did tell the parties who were here, but just for the record, that meeting, July 21st, will be at the MNPS boardroom, and we'll try to make that announcement a few times during these proceedings to remind everyone about that. The next item that we would ask the board to consider is our consent agenda. The board staff has recommended a consent agenda, and the board chair has reviewed the record on this case to recommend for adoption by the board. The consent agenda that we would like to propose is case number 2022-86. This is a case requesting a variance to expand the permissible square footage for a veterinary clinic for property located at 2700 Gallatin Pike. The applicant is proposing a 3,750 square foot facility, which is in excess of the 2,500 square foot limitation for MULA zoning districts. If you're in agreement, we would ask for the board to consider a motion to approve this item on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there anybody here opposed to one day I'll get that.
No, that was my mistake, so thank you.
Yeah, is anybody here opposed to 2022-86? That's the property on 2700 Gallatin, 2700 Gallatin Pike. Okay, good, we're good. So,
Okay, thank you. And so can we have a second on the motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye, okay. Consent agenda passes.
All right. So for the items that are on public hearing today, well, are the applicants here for the case that we just approved on the consent agenda? If so, you'll have 2 years to finalize your board application for your permit. And otherwise, at this time, if that was the only matter that you're here for, then you are free to leave if you would like to. I don't believe we have any council members present to make a note of that, so we'll go through some instructions about the matters that are on public hearing for today. For the remaining items on our agenda, we're going to begin calling through the public hearing docket. And for contested matters, applicants will have 10 minutes to make your presentation to the board, which time would include any additional testimony that you would like to have put before the board for anyone that's here in support of the application along with you. If it's an uncontested case, then you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation. And then for those contested cases, parties in opposition will have also 10 minutes altogether. So that's a total of 10 minutes for all the persons who would like to speak in opposition to an application. And the applicant may reserve time for rebuttal to rebut the opposition testimony. Applicants and members of the public are prohibited from providing false or misleading testimony before the board. After the close of each public hearing, the board will discuss the case and take a vote. The Metro Code requires 4 votes to grant or deny an application. If a motion fails to receive 4 concurring votes, the matter will appear on the next docket for consideration by any members who are unavailable today. Once a vote is taken on your application, a party who disagrees with the outcome may request a rehearing within 60 days. Parties may also appeal the decision to the Davidson County Chancery Court by filing a writ of certiorari within 60 days. All parties are encouraged to seek independent legal counsel before filing an appeal to ensure that deadlines and procedures are followed. For applicants whose applications are granted today, then the applicant will have 2 years to complete the building permit for which you've applied. So for our public hearing instructions, we will call through the docket. When your item's called up, the applicant will come up first. Please turn on the microphone by pushing the button with the little person on it just one time, and then a red light will appear just like this one. Please don't press the button multiple times because the technology system can restart itself. But once your red light comes on, then you are ready to speak, and we'll keep the time according to those rules, depending on whether it's a contested or an uncontested case. At this time, we would like to call up on our agenda case number 2022-63. This is not an item for public hearing. This is an item that was on public hearing at the previous meeting. It's a request to retain a non-contextual 14-foot setback during expansion of a non-conforming duplex for property located at 3408 Elkins Avenue, which is located in the RS5 zoning district. Before the board at this time is a pending motion to approve the application. The votes taken at the prior meeting were 3 votes in favor, members Cole, Bradford, and Newton. 2 votes against, members Lawless and Carpenick. We had 1 member abstaining, that was board member Davis, and we had 1 member recusing, that was board member Pepper. We would like to ask if anyone wishes to change their votes today, and I believe, Ms. Davis, we were going to ask if you also had an opportunity to review the record on this matter, and if so, would you like to render a different vote?
I did watch the video, and I'm prepared to vote.
Okay, thank you. So if no other parties, no other board members wish to change their vote, then if you would please let us know what your vote would be.
I'm going to vote with the nays, so I would vote with member Lawless and member Carpenick.
All right, then with 3 votes in favor, 3 against, this matter will be denied. I would ask the zoning administrator to just confirm that for our verification. I believe it's denied by operational law. That was on.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just confirming in our rules, this case will be deemed denied by operation of law. We will, this hearing today is the only hearing within the 30-day window after the initial vote. So this case has been deemed denied under your rules. Okay, so Mr. Chair, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, case 2022-73. This is a request for a variance from the rear and side setback requirements for property located at 317 Harpeth Valley Road in the RS40 zoning district. The applicant is seeking to reduce the 15-foot side setback to 3 feet and the 20-foot rear setback to 10 feet to construct a detached accessory structure. Before you is the zoning map for this property, the aerial view of the property and surrounding area, a photo of the home from the street, and then here we have a closer view of the home and the closest abutting property, as well as a street view. And this is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. Is anyone here in opposition to case 2022-73? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, the applicant will have 5 minutes to make a presentation. If you please come to our presentation table.
ahead there. I'm Alex Lute. I'm the appellant. This is my neighbor. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Janet Cook. I live at 7517 Potomac Drive, just diagonal across the street to Alex's property.
So we designed the garage based off of needs that we had as a family, 3-car garage. We also do a really obnoxious Christmas display, and the garage, will house that kind of stuff. In designing the garage, we're asking for the setback change because our house sits very far back on that lot, and I know it's a 1-acre lot, or 0.93, but to get up to the left-hand side of the house to get back to that area is a little tight over there. And when we applied for the building permit and we were outside of the setbacks, we worked with the garage builder to try to rework the plan and rework how we could fit it in there. And a viable solution we had was to kind of pivot and turn the garage, but we would have to reroute the driveway. And there is a historic tree. We won a big old tree contest from the Nashville Tree Foundation. We have the largest chestnut tree in Davidson County. And so we're really hoping to keep that tree there and not have to disturb it as we try to work our way into our garage. My council person, Gloria Hauser, she had me talk to all the neighbors, and I think that's included in your packet. Everybody on my block signed off on it, as well as all the neighbors who are facing my house who would see it, and then a few extra neighbors who really just wanted to sign it because they like me. So, but yes, I have that, and then Janet, I think, wants to say something.
Well, just that I have no objection, and I look directly, probably more directly in the area of this garage of any of the other neighbors, and I have no objections, and I've spoken with neighbors, and no one has any objections to Alex building this garage.
Any questions? Thank you. Any questions about that?
Is there a reason why the 3 foot rather than 5 or 10 foot from the side it has to be? Is that?
So we built a garage in East Nashville when we lived over there, and the setback was 3. So we designed it thinking it was the same setback, not knowing that there was a difference. And so if you look at the picture, coming up the side of the house, we can fit our 3-car garage kind of, I guess, to the left of the house where we don't have to jog back behind the house.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's where we came up with 3.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry.
Is there anything, if you look at the site plan again, if you tried to squeeze some more setback out of it, is there anything to the right? Did I hear there was a swimming pool back there or something?
There is a pool. So the garage, we have it set up to come up to, well, and let's talk about this. Part of the garage structure is really just a covered patio, for the pool. So we really can't go any farther in because we'd be in the pool that the previous owner put up.
So it adjoins a pool deck is what you're saying? You can't go any further to the right because there's a pool deck there?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions?
So, and if you look at that picture, the one on the top left, you can see our big historic tree there. I'm just pointing out the tree, It has a plaque.
You sat here before, I can tell.
No, I watched the videos because the lady told me to watch the videos, so I was practicing. And I wrote notes to myself.
Okay, well, any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Public hearing and discuss. Well, I mean, my only question is, I thought maybe this could even go on the consent agenda, but with the 3 feet, I just felt like we ought to talk about it. if there is a pool to the right, I mean, I think that would be having to move the pool would be a hardship in my mind, and we certainly don't want to get near the tree because Tom Lawless would jump out of his chair and
I really would probably see me melt down.
you would have a meltdown. So.
There's not a lot of European chestnuts left.
So, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the side and rear setback based on the hardship being the shape of the lot and then the swimming pool located to the right and the mature tree.
You know, I do want to say, though, that looking at the aerial, it appears that you could do a carport at the rear with storage without encroaching on that setback. So, and without encroaching on the pool deck. So I did want to, just kind of put that on the record.
Okay.
I'm still going to second it so he can readdress his concerns.
Okay. So
Because we're protecting a tree, Judge, so I mean, you
your
got to understand.
concern is that it could. Can you talk to me in terms of the site plan?
So if we're just looking at the aerial, that right now they're parking 3 cars in the rear already.
Right.
Somewhat L-shaped to the home. There could be a carport at the rear that's L-shaped.
A carport.
Just cover where they're currently parking now.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're making the point that they could have an open carport there too?
Yes.
Okay, I follow.
Yeah, they could without.
Sure, without getting a variance.
having a garage.
Okay,
Yeah,
I understood. Took me a second there. Okay. Okay, so there's a motion. I think Mr. Lawless seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? So that passes 5-1. Okay. All right.
Thank you guys so much. Sorry.
Take care of the tree.
Yeah, I love that tree. You can tell we planted 10 other new trees in the front yard.
Yes, it's Tracy.
We did watch the tapes, didn't we?
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, next case.
This is case 2022-81. It's a request for a variance from the street setback and visibility triangle to construct a monument sign along South New Hope Road. The subject property is located at 3024 Wiltshire Park Place within an SP zoning district. Here is the zoning map of this area, an aerial photo of the neighborhood, a photo of the site, and the proposed sign mock-up that was submitted by the applicant. Here we have a framed rendering showing the dimensions of the proposed sign and a current photo of the site. There's a picture of the streetscape, and then this is a picture of the entrance to the subdivision directly across the street. It does have some monument signs with different dimensions on either side of their street. This is the graphic of the specs for the applicant's proposed sign. And then the visibility triangle that's contained in the code, that's a graphic of it. This is for illustration only, rendering of what that visibility triangle encompasses on this parcel. And then the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. Is anyone here in opposition to this case? Okay, seeing none. The applicant may come forward and we'll have 5 minutes. Randy Sexton available.
Is the appellant present in this case?
Anybody here on this case? 81. Park at Wiltshire sign.
This case was recommended for disapproval by the Planning Commission, and I have been, Planning Department, I should say, and I've been in communication. I suspect that the applicant may be aware that the matter would be withdrawn or denied by operational law for not prosecuting his case today, but perhaps we could just put it on the heel of the docket and confirm that he doesn't come would be the only option that I could, recommend to the board, or else just a motion to deny it.
Has anybody contacted you? Did you talk with anybody yesterday about this?
Yes, I did speak with him. I've spoken with him yesterday afternoon, and I've spoken with him today by email, and he submitted an email to some individuals in the planning department and NDOT requesting to discuss the recommendation that was received by the planning department. That was the last information I heard around 10 a.m. this morning.
But there was no indication that he planned to come or not come?
Someone did call my phone while I've been here, and I have a voicemail that I haven't been able to listen to yet. I'm not sure if it was him or could be.
I'll call. I'll reach it. If the board wouldn't mind, just heal this case. I'll reach out to him.
I think let's heal it and see what's going on with this one. So, okay. So we'll put that one to the heels, and we'll go to the next case.
Okay, thank you. I'll just bring up my next slides. For case 2022-82, this is a request for a special exception from the height and setback requirements for an adaptive residential development within the UCO for property located at 1218, 1224, and 1236 Dickerson Pike, 5 Ligon Avenue, and 1055 Whites Creek Pike within the CS zoning district. In addition to the base zoning, these properties are under consideration for rezoning to an NS zoning district, which would restrict short-term rentals within the development. The street setback requirement for each parcel is 15 feet, and the applicant is requesting to eliminate the street setback. The height at the setback line is 30 feet pursuant to the zoning code, and the applicant is seeking a height exception of 80 feet along Dickerson, 132 feet along Auction Way, and 147 feet along Whites Creek Pike. In order to approve the height exception, the board must find that the proposed building height does not create an adverse impact on air, light, shadow, or wind velocity patterns relative to the existing structures, or create those obstructions for not yet built but approved structures. And the board must find that the proposed building height contributes to and does not detract from a strong pedestrian-friendly streetscape. And similarly, to approve the setback exception, the applicant has a burden to show that the proposed development does not create an adverse impact on adjacent properties nor detract from the strong pedestrian-friendly environment. The Metropolitan Planning Department has recommended approval, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant provides sidewalks per the Major and Collector Street Plan along Dickerson and Whites Creek Pike, provide sidewalks and grass strip along Auction Way and Ligon per the local street standard, that the approved heights are to the highest point of the roof, including any obstructions, and any unlined parking structures visible from public streets shall be screened with architectural cladding, including Building 3, where it's visible from Ligon, and our site plan will establish which one is Building 3. NDOT also agreed with the plan, subject to the following conditions: final placement of buildings, roadways, and driveways shall be coordinated prior to construction, and site distance exhibits may be required. MBHA Design Review Committee will also consider this for final approval. Before you is the zoning map of this development, as well as an aerial view. And then this is a closer in aerial view that was submitted by the applicant. Here are some street view photos of the current site and some panoramic photos. Here we have the applicant's site plan. This site plan photo here shows Building 3 to the top left. Then the light and shadow study that was submitted by the applicant. And then this slide contains those planning and NDOT recommendations that were previously read out. And And then on your desk, you will have a document that was submitted for the record in opposition of this matter by a member of the public. So I believe there may be opposition present. Is that correct? And if so, did you wish to speak today? Yes. Okay. Then if the applicants would come forward, you will have 10 minutes to make your presentation, and you may reserve some of your time for rebuttal.
Good afternoon. I'm Kim Hawkins with Hawkins Partners Landscape Architects and Planners here in Nashville, 2205 Natchez Trace. These parcels that you see today are all currently zoned CS, Commercial Services. They're located along Dickerson Pike, which is a major arterial multimodal corridor, and Whites Creek Pike, a collector within the Urban Zoning Overlay District. Please note that CS zoning, as you know, does not stipulate a maximum height, and it's really controlled by a slope control plane. For context, these parcels are all within T4CC and T4MU planning districts. Those are both urban mixed-use districts that have a pedestrian priority development. The parcels are also located within the MDHA Skyline Redevelopment District, which was established in 2007. And the redevelopment plan states that the new building should be built close to sidewalks along street frontages in the interest of establishing a more consistent street edge. The specific application of this regulation was verified by the Director of Urban Development for MDHA, Joe Kane, in a letter dated December 1st, 2021. The parcels are also located within the Dickerson South Corridor Study. That study was approved by the Metro Planning Commission in February of 2020, and that was with robust community input through a multi-year process. In that study, the parcels that are shown were indicated as having building heights of 6 stories along those frontages of Dickerson Pike and Ligon, and heights of 12 stories over the remainder of the parcels, including the frontages of Whites Creek Pike and Auction Way. The MDHA Skyline Redevelopment District was established to provide a modern framework for this area, and the 2020 Dickerson South Corridor Study by planning sought to further update the policy to respond to the rapid growth and development along this very important corridor. The proposed development shown on these parcels complies with all community character and all special policies that have been listed at above and approved by the different Metro organizations. Of note, all of the adjacent parcels along Ligon have the same community plan policies, the T4MU and T4CC, as the parcels we are looking at, and are subject to the same MDHA redevelopment district and to the Dickerson South Corridor Plan, the same as is these parcels. The special exception allows the development of this site under the existing zoning while complying with the more recent policies to encourage a more consistent urban streetscape as our city grows. We did provide the sun studies noted on page 8 in your packet to show no adverse effect, and the placement of those proposed mix of uses at the street frontage provides a relationship to the streets that promotes active uses along the streetscape and a walkable public realm. The development provides active retail and amenities on the ground floor and entry lobbies and enhances a streetscape experience to improve the overall pedestrian experience. We're grateful for the support of Councilman Parker, who has guided this process, and the Metro Planning Commission staff recommendation of approval and agreed to all conditions noted. And now I'll turn it to Quan Poole.
Thank you. Quan Poole, 511 Union Street, Suite 2700. I will say we do want to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal. I sometimes will get long-winded, so I want to say that up front. First, I want to talk about, we held a community meeting last week on June 29th, and so the purpose of that community meeting was not just for this special exception request as required, but it was also to talk about the companion rezoning bill, which is removing the PUD and then also rezoning the property to not allow short-term rentals on that Whites Creek portion of the property. The community meeting was held in right across from Dickerson Pike, and it was attended by Ingrid Campbell, who's the president of the McFerrin Neighborhood Association. I know some people, or we've heard that someone didn't receive notice of it, but we know it was sent out to her group. She at the community meeting even stated that she sent notices out to her group of people once when the notice first came out, and then even before attending the meeting itself, she followed up and said, hey, I'm about ready to attend this meeting. Does anyone want to go there with us? The feedback that we got at the community meeting was all positive. Of course, there were questions about certain portions of the development, but no one there voiced any opposition. Prior to, I know there was a communication sent to the board today. Prior to the meeting at the Metro Council this past Tuesday, we hadn't had any knowledge of anyone who was in opposition to the proposed development. After finding out that Mr. Kendig had some questions about it, we reached out to him, and we're in the conversation of talking to him more about the development. As it relates to special exceptions, I'm sure you all have heard this before, but the standards as it relates to special exceptions is that if you prove that you've met the conditions that are outlined in that application, the law requires that you approve the special exception. And so in that sense, special exception is a little bit of a misnomer. It's not that you're providing some type of variance or exception. Is that if you show that you meet those conditions, the Tennessee law requires that you grant the application. And as submitted, all the conditions that have been laid out in this application show that we meet those standards. And there's a cover letter in your packet that outlines all of the conditions to show that we've met the requirements set forth in the zoning code. After hearing that some of the participants didn't know about the community meeting, we went back, we looked at our list, ensured that it was all the properties that were within the general area of our development. I know the notices went out. I watched my legal assistant stuff over 200 letters in our office, and we placed those into the mail. So if anyone have any questions, certainly we're here and we're happy to answer those. I think Councilmember Parker said that he's out of town. He couldn't be here today, but he was going to send in an email of support to the board. So hopefully that's in your packet.
The neighbors who are in opposition, were they, and I know the list is generated from Metro, it's not something you generate, but were they on the mailing list?
We know the only name that we had last night was Mr. Kendig, and we specifically looked his up and knew that it was sent to a P.O. box, and we just spoke with Mr. Kendig. It was our first direct communication, and that, I think, is his P.O. box. So that was the one that we verified because it was the only name that we knew yesterday.
And I know a couple of those properties are non-owner occupied short-term rentals, so I don't know if that played into whether or not the notice was received or not, but they were mailed out.
Okay, are we at the reserve 8-minute mark?
Yes, sir. Mr. Pulley, you've got 2 minutes, 35 seconds remaining.
You want to use the last 35 seconds, or
no? We'll
safe. Okay.
We'll reserve the overtime.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions before they sit down? Okay. Thank you.
I do have one question. I know you're asking for, or your special exception will allow for 12 stories on Dickerson, and in the this is in actually the letter that we got from the opposition, that it shows, it's a diagram that shows 7 stories in those. Is that, can you explain kind of what the difference there between, it says 12 stories allowed, but only 7 stories are shown in like the site section diagrams and some of the other ones there. Can you kind of explain that?
It is the Dickerson South Corridor Plan asks for 6 stories, and then you can step back and then go up.
Right.
So it is 6 stories along right at Dickerson, and then it steps up with a certain setback. That's all stipulated by the Dickerson South Corridor Plan, which was passed by Metro Planning Commission.
Okay.
And again, I think you have a letter from Metro Planning Commission attesting that it does, in fact, meet their guidelines.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, you've got 2 minutes and 35 seconds that you've got for rebuttal. We'll hear from the opposition.
Those parties who are opposed, come forward and have a seat at the table. You'll have 10 minutes to present your testimony. Sir, are there any other parties present that wish to speak? Sure. Yeah, come forward if you'd like.
One time. Okay, we got red. First, I'd like just to rebut a couple things. I'm familiar with Parker Brown MDHE Skyline.
Yeah, sorry, you need to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Jeff Kendig. I own a parcel. I own several parcels, and I've since sold them, but I own a parcel that is directly adjacent at 27 Ligon.
Okay, and is that Norman Crowe sitting next to you?
It is.
Okay. I didn't recognize you when you came in, so good to see you, and I will have to recuse myself because I didn't know you were here, Ms. Crowe. Ms. Crowe is a current
She can go sit back down over there.
Well, yeah, I will have to, for the record, identify that I represent Ms. Crowe, and so I'll have to recuse myself on this one. Well,
this is
not only she is I probably could, but I don't want to. I think under the Metro rules, if I'm actively representing a client, I think it would be completely improper for me to stay. So, yeah.
We could reserve judgment until we find out how you're going to vote. So, Norma, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Norma Crowe, and I live at 2311. I built my house there. I'm sorry. My name is Norma Crowe, and I live at 2311. I built my house there going on 4 years ago to be my final home and my first new home. So I actually live there. I don't object to this development, but I'm objecting to anything that's going to add any more density that's not allowed at this point. In other words, what is allowed there is allowed, but I'm not for any more density in that area. Within my house, there is over 1,000 units being built right now within 3 blocks. And I don't know if you've been on Ligon Street or not, but it's very narrow. And also Whites Creek Street is. So I think they have enough land there and that they have enough development without trying to get any more density by changing the setbacks.
So I just wanted to make a couple of rebuttal points. The Skyline Redevelopment District specifically was put in place to address blight in the area. I know the Dickerson South study went a little further, but it was to address blight. Well, since that redevelopment district was established, from what's known as Fern Hill, which is Fern, Lucille, and all those side streets, I mean, most of the houses up there are $1 million houses, so the blight has gone, started to go away, and eventually we'll keep moving down the road without having to put that kind of density next to 1 and 2 family dwellings. I provided a packet today. I'm sorry I did not get it in time. Another thing we were a little disappointed in is we asked Sean, who is usually very pro-neighborhood, and I just want to make a point. Every house along Ligon, except the stuff in the rezone, is owner-occupied houses. They are not Airbnbs. They are not, and that area is probably not even considered part of the McFerrin Park. So why there would be a McFerrin Park neighborhood community meeting to address that would be like going to the Highland Heights. I called the Highland Heights president to ask him, have you heard anything about this? And he said, no. Well, I kind of didn't expect him to because it's on the other side of Dickinson. McFerrin Park is really, I mean, they may consider it part of them, but I've never gotten an invite to a McFerrin Park meeting. She hasn't, Bronson hasn't. And between us and Fred Stevens, who we're also representing, we own all of Ligon. So we own all of the property adjacent to this development, except what's in the development. The Dickerson Pike, not the Dickerson Pike, the Skyline redevelopment study specifically addresses compatibility. And the wonderful gentleman from Laurel Lansden indicated, well, if you look at the zoning, well, it doesn't talk about zoning. It's compatibility. It doesn't specify. And there's no transition between what are one, if you'll look, I've got some, if you just look at Exhibit 1 in this packet I hand out, all of, in the red at the top of that, those are all 1 and 2 single-family dwellings. The proposed development's going to be, they're looking for 12 stories in the back. You know, you can't protect views, and I understand that, but you're literally about to put a development behind houses that people have put significant investment in, and it's going to cause significant privacy issues because you're literally going to have 12 stories staring into the back of single-family homes. I know that when the R6 front and back first came in East Nashville, a lot of people didn't like that because people were staring down their backyard. Well, can you imagine having a significant investment of $1 to $2 million in a house, and all of a sudden you're like in a fishbowl? You've got 1,000 people staring in, and so we would definitely ask. Our goal is at a minimum to defer this till we have time to meet with the developer and his representatives and discuss this, because we are the most impacted by this development. Traffic concerns on Whites Creek and Ligon are definitely an issue we would like to understand. We would like for you guys to, like I said, at a minimum, defer any decision here to give them any extra entitlements based on variances. We would also like to talk to the developer about just understanding what the actual height will be. We know some of these developments, like the garage, may be subterranean, so there may be 3 or 4, maybe 3 or 4 stories underground, and we're just looking to come to some balance so that it's, you know, this giant development that's super dense is not, you know, that there's some buffer or transition between these two properties. Again, we were disappointed. We asked Councilmember Parker to postpone the PUD, to defer it. Based on Bronson speaking with the developer, he indicated that phase 2 of this won't happen for 2 to 3 years, and that's where the PUD was removed from. So to defer it for 2 meetings didn't seem like it was a big ask for us to take, you know, a month to get with the developer. The planning commission, the planners do a phenomenal job. I probably get 100 things in that area a month on replannings, and I read them, and, you know, it was just, I may have seen removal of PUD. Bronson and Norma, they said they did not get notified. Me, myself, planning does a good job, so I may have looked at it and just not realized. What happened, though, the other day, we got these plans that show that they're asking for more height, they're asking for more entitlements based on variances, and we feel like that a deferral at a minimum to give us a chance to understand exactly what they are asking for and what's going to be built there is, as it impacts us the most. None of the people at that meeting own any of the property on Ligon. I mean, Sean says there was a community meeting. Well, it couldn't have been too much of a meeting. I've talked to at least 6 people on Fern, none of them were there. So, I mean, I can show up with 25 people that'll say, no, we don't want any development there. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for an opportunity to meet with the developer before we move forward and understand what they're going to do and see if there's not some compromise on some of the setbacks, you know, maybe having it tiered. If you'll notice their development, which I've put on, I think it's one of the items that you had. they want to have 6 stories on Dickerson. Well, they're having townhomes built on the top of their Ligon lots. Of course they want 6 stories because they don't want fish bowls. They want to be able to sell them. But then they're going to put 12 stories at the back. Now, what I will say, in fairness to the individuals that just presented, we've not had any dialogue. So I'm okay with you denying them, I'll tell you, but I'm also okay with just deferring this to give us a little bit of time to discuss it with those individuals and just to see, understand exactly what they're doing, because we're not saying we're against it. We just want to get a better understanding, and we just don't want additional entitlements given to them without a better understanding.
If I may ask a question, on your exhibit, and we did receive your packet, would you circle the properties that belong to you on this page?
Okay, so if you look at it, let me see which one we need to look at. Let's look at the first one where it says Ligon Avenue. So if you look at this exhibit right here, it's a single-family dwellings at the top. Right there where it says Ligon Avenue, those are all the properties that we own, and then Norma and Bronson own the properties across the street as well. But we represent everybody except the properties that are owned by the 2 properties that are owned by the developer. So everything across the street all the way to probably right about where the Ligon Avenue, where you see that second house right there, that is owned by individuals we are representing.
So have you, before the meeting started, did you get a chance to talk with the developer and say, why don't you defer it? Or is this...
We didn't get that far. You guys came out and got us and said you guys were starting.
Sorry, Joe. I didn't.
It's all good.
I wasn't watching back in the back today. So, okay, so you haven't had a chance to ask Juan or his client whether or not that they had an objection to deferring it for...
No, not at all. And that's would be our preference.
Juan, that was a sneak up what I'm going to ask you when you come up here.
Also, can I ask a question or make a statement? I want to know about the building that's facing...
the public hearing is still open, so she can...
I want to ask a question about the building that's facing Whites Creek. That faces an interstate, 3 of them. And there's close to 200,000 cars a day that goes by there. So I'm concerned, it looks like they've got a garage on the first floor. I am a developer, and I don't understand exactly why they wouldn't want that a little different. That's why I would like to see the plans more in.
Understood. Any more questions? So, do you all have a neighborhood association on that side of Dickerson? Because to the opposition's earlier point, I think the 3 neighborhood associations in this area are Highland Heights, Cleveland Park, and then McFerrin. McFerrin is the one closest to town. I would say this development is sort of across at the edge of Cleveland and Highland Heights, but to your point, it is on the other side of Dickerson. So do you all have a formal neighborhood association? Because it could have just been the applicant didn't know who to contact, because I don't know if you all have one, so that was my question.
We don't.
Okay.
We may after this.
Okay, any additional questions?
And again, just to recap, it's more the transition. And if you look at the Skyline Redevelopment District, if you read the whole thing, I know the gentleman that came up used a lot of legal jargon with us out in the hallway. But the fact of the matter is the compatibility doesn't refer to any legalese, or it's compatible with, and I think anybody would agree that going from 1 and 2 family dwellings to this kind of density without necessarily, in my opinion, especially on the back side of the property, having traffic studies, and because that corridor up Whites Creek is significantly used by people coming from downtown to go over to West Trinity. So while it doesn't look like there's a tremendous amount of traffic, in certain times of day, there's a tremendous amount of traffic on that. There's actually a decent amount of traffic that cuts over from there across Ligon, and Ligon is a very small...
Because Ligon has a traffic light.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to check on, was there time left?
There's still 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, thank you.
For the opposition, if there are any other parties, if you guys at the table have anything further to add, if there's anyone else that wishes to speak.
Yeah, I wish we'd engaged a little earlier. I'm not going to, I don't make excuses for that. I tried to do everything I could once. We got the plan, basically. That's what, engaged us. Someone sent us a plan, said, hey, are you guys aware of this? And we weren't. We did not know that there was going to be that kind of an intensity. Again, we were disappointed that the PUD was not delayed because the developer themselves has said it's going to be 2 to 3 years before they get to that. So I don't understand how a 1 month delay would have hurt that. And if I'm candid, it seems like there's some inconsistency in how different neighborhoods, and it may be that we don't have a strong neighborhood association, but we were not, and I've never been invited to any of the McFerrin Park Neighborhood Association meetings, and I do come to some of the Highland Heights meetings. I have property there too, and I've been invited. The president over there, Stacy's very good about keeping his Facebook page up to date, and if you monitor that, you kind of know what's going on.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we'll call up the appellants to answer some of the questions.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Madam Chairman, just a quick word on Mr. Pepper's recusal. Under our rules, it's not a choice. He does have to recuse himself. So I just want to be sure to get that on the record. And whenever members recuse themselves, they do have to leave the room. So we have our little conference room that he's hanging out in, and I'll bring him back in. But yeah, I just want to make sure he really didn't have any discretion in it at all. So.
Could you, or not Joey, Elizabeth, could you bring up the slide that shows the satellite map? Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is, first, I was not trying to indicate that all the property along Ligon is non-owner occupied short-term rentals. I know Mr. Kendick's property is one, but I guess Ms. Crow does live in her property. But the first thing I want to point out is that all the property that they're describing was rezoned to MUG in 2017. So while there is a...
Mr. Kendick's property and Ms.
Crow's property. Yes. So while that property does have a single or duplex on it, the ability for those properties to develop over time is not going to be in a manner that's single 1 or 2 family homes. And so when he talks about the Dickerson Pike study looking at, the MDHA redevelopment district looking at compatibility, they're going to be looking at the mixed use general standard, which aside from MUI, mixed use intensive, is the most intense mixed-use district that we have. The FAR, I believe, is 5.0.
No, I think it's 3.
Is 3. The height standards go up over 7 stories. So these property, and if you look at that street, they're mostly all vacant lots. So they are going to develop over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, and they're going to develop under that mixed-use general standard. The other thing I want to point out, as it relates to the request to build closer to the street, the idea there is that you want a more urban and walkable neighborhood, and you want that interaction right at street level. You don't want, like, for example, in CS zone districts, sort of the purpose of that is they would often put the parking lots right at the front of that structure. So
I'm going to add, Quan, that is not our desire. That is the desire of MDHA and the Metro Planning Commission. Those are the ones who have written these guidelines that we are just trying to follow.
And they want those buildings closer to the street, so as you're interacting with that street on the sidewalk, you can walk in and out of the retail, you can walk in and out of the coffee shops, you can walk in and out of the buildings and not have this huge stack of asphalt right at street level. That's not beneficial, but certainly Kim knows a lot more about that than me.
And I want to hit a couple of other things. You'll note in terms of transition, our property in the plan that you see, along Ligon, those are shown as townhomes for exactly that reason of providing some transition from Ligon into the broader site. And also just to know that the density that is being proposed here is by right. The only thing that is being asked is the special exception, which we qualify for because we meet all of the requirements of the special exception. We are not asking for any density above what is allowed by right.
And that's
it.
We will ask you questions undoubtedly.
No, I don't mind if I make a motion to add 1 more minute to allow Mr. Poole to finish his thought. So an extra 30 seconds to a minute if he wants to finish his thought.
Is there a second on that? Second. Okay.
That's the only thing I was going to say is we aren't adding any additional density. Everything we're doing is what we can do by right. It's just a matter of, are we going to have a setback to allow that building to be built closer to the street? Are we not going to have that height control plane, which allows that the full scope of that building to be closer to the street, which is what is in the redevelopment district, which is what's in the Dickerson South Corridor Authority. Nothing about this plan is adding to the density. It's all done by right, and it's certainly going to match the mixed use general that's going to develop over the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other board member questions?
I have a question. So it looks like there's a pretty significant drop-off right here between the single-family dwellings and this property. Can you approximate kind of what that drop-off is in terms of feet?
It is shown on page 7 in your document, and the grade is approximately 470, I would say 473, and there is that slope has been cut out and goes up to it looks like about 500. So there's about a 25-foot grade change. Do you see it there? It's the very dark gray on the left-hand side is the cut.
I don't know if we have all of the sheets in our packet that you're referring to.
Page 7 is
we go straight from page 3 to page 9 in our packet. So
well, that's unfortunate because this is. Can you pull that up, Elizabeth?
I didn't have that. I don't know where it went to.
I'm finding it on the screen. Look at page 72.
Okay.
This is the one that shows it, and it shows the dark is the cut of the rock.
Okay, I see that on here now.
I'm sorry, sorry, I'm having to do the Carol Merrill thing here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that helps.
So the portion that goes above grade there, if you will, are the 4 stories of garage and 4 stories of building. So it's only 8 stories above because the other stories are kind of built into that slope, if that helps you understand how it's working.
Okay. Yeah, that helps.
So just so that I make sure that I'm looking in the right section, and this is for Ms. Waits or Mr. Hargis, I'm looking at section 1716-150, general provisions regarding a special exception. Am I in the right area? I think I am, but I just want to confirm.
The special height and street setback exceptions are 1712-035D and 1712-060F.
Okay.
And I can go through those standards if you'd like again.
I would, and then I guess while you're doing that, I want to ask the applicant, because there is like significant neighborhood opposition, and I was a steering committee member of this study, so I'm very familiar with this area. I grew up a mile from here. I can tell you all the neighborhood associations from this end to Trinity Lane, and so because the people that did show up own such a significant part that touches this, has the applicant entertain the thought of maybe having at least a conversation with them to see if there was something that could be, it may not, anything can't be worked out, but I know on special exceptions, we always like to give community members the opportunity to have input. And then I'll stop talking and I'll defer to Ms. Waits.
Sure. Those standards are for the board to approve the height exception. The board must find that the proposed building height does not create an adverse impact on air, light, shadow, or wind velocity patterns relative to existing structures, or create those obstructions for approved but not yet built structures, and that the proposed building height contributes to and does not detract from a strong pedestrian-friendly streetscape. To approve the setback exception is a similar standard. The applicant must show that the proposed development does not create an adverse impact on adjacent properties nor detract from a strong pedestrian-friendly environment.
Juan, I forewarned you while you were back there. Why not give some of the opposition an opportunity to discuss this with you? If it'd be fruitless, say it. I mean, I don't want to come back and everybody be in the exact same shoes they are today.
So we reached out to Mr. Kindig. We didn't know about Ms. Crow or the other neighbor who's here today. We are trying to schedule a meeting to talk with them about the development. As written, we think it meets the standards of the special exception. We do think, and that's evidenced by the recommendation of approval from the planning department, but certainly we will follow the will of the board. And if the board thinks that it's in the best interest to defer this, to have us speak with the neighbors, we will certainly do that. Because we were actively engaged and we're trying to have that conversation. We only found out about it this past Tuesday, so we've only had, and that was Tuesday night at about 9 p.m. So we only had about, after a holiday, so we've only had about a day and a half to try to coordinate that meeting.
And Mr. Hargis introduced us while you were on your second item. We did not know that Mr. Kindig was here and had never met him before. So we apologize for not having been able to do that. So,
and don't read into my request any leaning one way or the other, but I'm sure you guys would much rather have happy campers out there as opposed to angry neighbors. So I'm just wondering, I mean, does it truly impact if you kicked it down? Just do 2 weeks till our next meeting at it.
On the 21st.
Yeah. I mean, I'm asking. It may be a stupid ask. If it is, Quan, I expect you to tell me it's a stupid ask.
Well, I don't think you do anything that's stupid, Mr. Wallace. But we still have to go before council on third reading. We'll also have to go before MDHA. So I don't know that 2 weeks would stop, would create a hardship on the development.
We're happy to, I'm just going to say that we're happy to do what we can. We apologize that this all happened really after we were here, and we're just wanting to make sure that we're really carefully going through this with you, because there's a lot of information here, and we're happy to continue the conversation.
We're still on the public hearing, so I have another question. Has a traffic study been completed, or is it even required?
A traffic study is not formally required. It will be done, because as we go through a permit process, it is required. We do, and there was note, I think Elizabeth Waits mentioned, NDOT said they would review final locations of entrances, et cetera. And so we will be required to make whatever those improvements are. But because this is not an overall rezoning and is being done by right, and the special exception really just changes what the setback is, it was not required to have a full traffic study prior to submitting to BZA. That would, of course, happen in the overall timeframe of the project, and those improvements would be made. Whites Creek is a collector. Dickerson is an arterial, and Ligon and Auction Way are both local streets in accordance with the major collector and street plan. So.
And the only thing I was going to add is I think that was one of the conditions that planning added was just that sidewalks or the right-of-way be updated in conformance with the major collector street plan, which obviously the developer plans to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there any more questions? Okay, we will close the public hearing and discuss. Kind of felt like there might be a motion to defer.
Opposition. Excuse me. I didn't hear any hard opposition one way or the other. So I'm going to make a motion. We defer this until our next meeting, maybe move it to the front end of our agenda.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay, I don't see any opposed. So that motion passes 5-0.
Make sure they know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll wait for our chair to return in just a moment. All right, our next case is 2022-83. This is a request for a variance from the side setback for property located at 514 Rentlawn Drive in the RS20 zoning district. The applicant is seeking to construct a detached accessory garage and is requesting a reduction of the 5-foot side setback to 2 feet. We've received letters in support from the council member as well as the owner at the adjacent parcel. Before you now is the zoning map, aerial photo of this neighborhood, a view from the street of the residence, some additional photos of this parcel. In the top left, you can see sort of the view between this house and the house that would be closest to where the side setback reduction is being requested. And then a couple of photos of the backyard and the area there where they are proposing to place the detached garage. And here's the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. And on your desks, you have a document that's been submitted by the applicant for your record. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case, 2022-83? I don't believe so. And so the applicant will have 5 minutes to make a presentation. Please state your name and address for the record when you get started.
Before the applicant starts, can you clarify my understanding? Well, that's what I get for taking a break. Can you clarify that even though the site plan here says there's a 10-foot side setback, my understanding is it's actually just a 5-foot side setback?
Yes, so I do understand that the rendering has the 10 feet, and that's because under the base zoning, it would appear to have a 10-foot, but under section 1712.040 E1B, rear accessory structures that are less than 700 square feet can cut the side setback in half.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. If you could state your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jim Holder, 514 Brentlawn Drive. And I did bring an additional handout. I handed to this gentleman. Does everybody have a copy of this? Okay, good. We are wanting to build an open-sided, probably attractive wood carport over our parking area in the back. And I can show you with this handout, this has some pretty good photos, additional to the ones that you already have. This has some pretty good photos to show our situation. An interesting side note, our driveway points exactly due north. We go down to the front end of our driveway, the North Star, it's exactly over the end of our driveway down there. So we've got north, south, east, and west down pretty good. On the first page, you can see the driveway passing along the side of our house. And then the property line is along the fence to the left side of these bushes right here. Then on the second page, this is what we have. This is what we have, the area we have to park in. And I'll just add, looking back at the first page, you can see the white car that's shown on the next page really has something of a challenge to back out now. That's a challenging entrance in and out. So we're wanting, and then of course the last photograph on the second page shows the area with no cars there. The constraints that we're facing with wanting to do this, first off, you can see the tree that's right directly and further, that's north, away from our house. Further, that tree really constrains us going any further that direction. And then we're also constrained from coming into our driveway and turning right and parking facing east and west rather than just pulling straight in. That really becomes a challenging back out to get back out to the street. So we really are hoping to be able to park just as we do now, as close to that as possible, because if we don't get a good setback, then we would have to move, when we built the carport, we would have to move everything further to the east. That's away from the property line, and that's going to make that exit from the excuse me, from the parking spot for the white car even more challenging. So we would really have to consider what we were going to do in that case. We have contacted Courtney Johnson and sent her materials, and she has written an email in support, I believe, of going forward. And then we have also, some time ago, spoken to the neighbor that on the left side that would be affected by this, and adamant with them that if they had any problem with us doing anything along this area, that we would be very easy to work with. And we're not trying to, we want their full assent. And they did. They said they had no problem, and they have sent also an email to the board saying that that's the case. So that's pretty much our situation. We're wanting to cover our cars for the, for obvious reasons. We've got, increasing thunderstorms coming along, and we've already had one instance of hail damage on a car before. So we are, that would be our goal. And again, this would be an open-sided, probably some type of an attractive wood structure. So that's where we are.
Just want to confirm with codes. The slide shows it's 20. They're trying to do a 20-foot rear setback. That's not correct, right? It's just
no. The rear. We're not even interested in the rear at all.
Yeah. Just want to confirm here.
The 20-foot setback, of course, as he's indicated, it's actually not impacted by the request, but it would still be a 10-foot because under that same section that I was talking about earlier with the 700-foot accessory structure in the rear, you can also cut your rear setback back in half.
Yeah, but I'm just asking that, because on the slide here it shows that something about the 20-foot rear setback, but we're not looking at that here, are we?
That's right. He's actually in front of the 20-foot setback, even though it's actually a 10.
Okay.
If I could comment, that we have another site drawing. That's the incorrect one. The structure, the dark structure, really in the correct, I can email this later if we need. That dark structure is the carport, but that would actually move just to cover this back area here. And the tree is not shown on that. The tree on the correct site plan, the tree is on the site plan. It's right there where the dark. I can't see that site plan now.
Yeah, no worries. So, so if you are going to have this carport at 5 feet from the property line rather than the 2 feet that you're asking, would that impact the tree that's next to it? Is that what you're trying to? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that we can't. I'm just pointing out that we had somehow we got a second site plan,
right?
And that site plan showed the tree. This one doesn't show the tree.
That's okay. I mean, we can see the tree in the photos. Yeah. But what I'm asking is if the carport was 5 feet from your property line rather than 2 feet, would that impact the tree?
No. No, we're moving. We're hoping to be as close along the side of the drive over here as possible.
So what would be wrong with having it 5 feet rather than the 2 feet? You're asking for 2 feet from setback.
Yes.
The code has 5 feet. Why do you need to have it 2 feet rather than 5 feet?
Well, the construction would have to move further east, further to the left, away from that property line, and that just makes this backing out. You can see on the first page that makes this a lot more challenging thing to back out and get out.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
It's already challenging enough. We just don't have a lot of. We're constrained by a lot of maneuvering room in the back. Is our problem.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at your site plan, and I'm seeing you got plenty of room going to the. I guess that's the east if you extended the drive. And are you self-imposing this on you? I don't see a hardship.
I'm not sure I understand, sir.
Well, why aren't you expanding the, as you refer to it, I think it's listed as drive, out towards, is that little square thing right behind the existing house? Is that a fire?
The dark square. This is an incorrect. Somehow we've got the incorrect one here. The dark square really moves down over the. Well, I can't see it now.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go research. I just checked our records, and this is the one we have for this file, but I'm willing to go look at your building permit application and kind of dig and see if I can find a second one. This is the one that was submitted with this particular application, but if I can find a different one, or if you want to email me one.
I can email you one.
Okay, I need to probably check with the zoning administrator because we need to make sure that we follow our procedures to make sure that that's the one that's basically before the board and that would be approved.
Okay.
So, yes, but if you, my email, I'll give you a card. I'm sorry. I probably need to ask the board if you're comfortable with this, but I just wanted to let you all know this is the site plan that I have access to.
I'm not questioning that at all.
Okay.
I'm looking at this as being more self-imposed, which you got a little bit higher mountain to climb, and I'm not trying to be hard on it, but I'm not seeing a real good reason.
Well, the reason
why.
the reason would be that any direction we go further east away from the property line makes it difficult to back out. We don't have a lot of maneuvering room back there. It just makes it much more difficult to back out. It's already a fairly decent challenge.
But doesn't that already exist today? Isn't it already hard to back up today? I'm asking. I don't.
It's already hard. But I'm saying what we would hope to do is build a carport right over what we have now. We're just trying to cover that existing drive area back there. And if we didn't have the easement and had to move, the construction would have to move to the limit then, and that just makes that, which moves our parking area, the area we park in, further away from the property line. And then that just becomes more of a challenge to back in and out all the time.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Cole.
Well, just a brief question. When it comes to the carport, you're mentioning moving it towards the center of your yard, which you're trying to avoid because you have a tree there. My question is, why can't you just reduce the size of the carport so that it fits within the setbacks?
Well, the setback, again, would make if we're trying to get, what we would hope for is to get the edge of the carport to come right along the drive here to take advantage of our back area. And if we had to move the edge of the carport over to be in complete compliance, that moves our parking area further away from the property line.
Well, what I'm asking is, instead of moving the carport, why aren't you just making the carport smaller? Well,
the left side of the black car right here is, shows where we park right now.
So my question is, why doesn't the carport start at the right side of that black car?
Because then that's even more difficult to back in and out. Then we don't really have room to come in from the street and make a 9-degree turn and park that direction then.
Well, I think the carport that's proposed only is for 3 cars, correct? Two? Okay. No. I mean, based on the setbacks, you may only be able to get a 1-car carport. That's my question. Like, why does it have to be a 2-car carport?
Because we're trying to protect both cars.
Okay, so similar to what Member Lawless was saying, this is likely self-imposed.
Well, so let me do a little timeout here, because I'm always concerned when somebody comes up and wants an approval, but I mean we don't have the site plan. So that concerns me that we are looking at something that may not be your site plan, Mr. Holder. Can you put the site plan we do have back up, and let's take a look at that?
I've actually got the site plan attached to the building permit.
What's that?
I've got the revised site plan.
Okay, great. All right.
I think it appears that the incorrect one, just through an error, was submitted along with the original application, but the correct one was submitted with the building permit, is what I'm understanding.
We're going to get to see that.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That solves that problem.
It's nice to know that humans actually work over the codes.
Just a few of us.
The codes department doesn't prepare the applications.
Okay, so this is it right here. Okay.
That's it. That's the correct one.
And here's another question for you. Are you sure, in looking at where these cars, looking at the pictures you put on the second page, I mean, are you sure you can't build a carport that holds 2 cars, even if it's maybe a little tight, and still make the 5-foot variance? Because it looks like you got a good bit to the right. You see the white car you got there? It seems like you got another 4 or 5 feet of asphalt over there to the right of it. I'm looking at the second page with that picture. And that's to Mr. Cole's point, I guess. I guess I'm asking, why would you even have to? It almost looks like what you're proposing could hold 3 cars.
No, we would.
So does the carport go? Is it going to align with where the asphalt is right now?
Yes, sir. That's what we would hope for.
Okay.
That would let us park like we do now.
I mean, I don't.
The main problem with moving any further to the east is challenge to backing that white car out. That's already a fairly difficult challenge. And if we had to, we move moved the black car further to the east and the edge of the carport, then, I mean, yes, the left edge of the carport, then it would compress those cars together and doors closer together and so forth.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing and discuss.
Mr. Chairman, before we do anything, this gentleman.
I'm sorry. Is there anything else you still have some time? Sorry, do you have anything to say?
I think not. Do you have any more questions for me at all?
Okay, no, I don't think we have any more questions. All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Discussion.
I will say that I think that the revised site plan makes a little more sense as to why he would want to have it closer to the property line. Because if you can move it further back, then you would have less of an issue getting cars in and out. It is tighter to have it a little bit closer. It is with it being closer to the house, you kind of do need that space. I mean, it seems like a pretty minimal ask just to move his carport over a little bit. It's an open structure. Is it a self-imposed hardship?
I want to hear you.
I'll leave the attorneys to figure that out. But I mean, it seems like a reasonable ask. There's council member support. There's neighbor support.
That's a good point about the neighbors supporting it. And I do see two trees. One tree is not shown on this site plan, but we can see it in the photo. And I'm worried if it was moved over a little bit more, that would get into the roots of the tree.
I had the same thought there.
It is not a hackberry.
You're reaching pretty hard.
So I'll take a crack. I learned about self-imposed hardships when Mr. Hargis was on the other side of this table and had a case and explained it. And it's not that what you propose to build imposes anything. It's that you do something to the property itself. Like you go in and you move the earth so that, you create a topography that doesn't work. So I don't think to me, it's not, whenever anybody wants to build something, that's not the self-imposed part. But, to me, it is it's not a 10-foot setback requirement. That's what I wanted to speak to. It is a 5-foot. So anyway, that's my legal opinion on the self-imposed.
So a question on that self-imposed opinion, it would be my understanding that it's self-imposed if you're trying to do something that the site can accommodate. This horse may not be for this course. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand, maybe they can only get one carport, or maybe they need to rotate this 90 degrees, or there may be some other design solution other than what they're proposing that meets the setback requirements.
Yeah, and
it may not be ideal.
Sure.
But
well, the expert on self-imposed hardships is at the other end of the table because I learned from him. And I always thought it was if you're doing something that you could do otherwise, but it really, as I understand it, has to do with you do something to the physical characteristic of the land, not the structure. But your point, Mr. Cole, is, I do think that you could do this differently. The question is, and I do think with this original site plan, it didn't make as much sense as it does to me now that I see how short the distance is between the proposed. I get there's more of a turning radius issue there. So can you put the actual site?
The real
there
one?
You go, yeah. That's
the one right there. That's it. That's the correct one.
Okay. One thing that we have to remember is the neighbor next door may be just fine with it today, but what happens when the 2 or 3 neighbors down the road, as homes flip from time to time, isn't so fine? And then on the other part that I make is, what happens if you shift it the 90 degrees so that you back out and you're coming out front ways instead of backing out this however long your driveway is? And, you know, that's where I'm getting to, and I haven't heard anything that's overcome it yet to make me look, and again, I'm just one of 5 or 6 or whatever.
No, we can close public hearing, but we can reopen it if you want to reopen it.
No, I didn't. His light was still on. It was confusing me a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Could you click your light, if you could click your button off there, sir, thank you. Yeah, there you go.
And I may be just totally off on the way I'm looking at it. I mean, I just don't want us to rubber stamp everything everybody brings in here.
Well,
and then have it affect somebody 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
I'm just scaling it using, there's no dimensions.
Well, you're the architect. You know it a whole lot better than I do.
There's no dimensions on it. So this is just my looking at it and scaling from, see the 10 feet would be here. I'm just eyeballing it.
Yeah.
So I think if it was rotated 90 degrees, you need about, I don't know, 24 is a good, maybe a little less, but we usually plan 24 feet for backing out. And so I don't think you would, if you move the carport and turned it 90 degrees, you'd be in that other tree. You wouldn't have enough room to really back out adequately. So I do see this, the 2 trees, I know it's not shown on here, but we see it in the photo. I do see the 2 trees as constraining where the carport can be. So I'm actually in favor of the variance request, especially because the neighbor didn't mind. And I understand the thought of what happens in the future, but I do think the future occupant of that home would already see that the carport was there, and they know what they're buying when they purchase their property.
It's also a carport. It's not like it may not be a 50-year building. It may be a 15-year building or 25-year or something like that. So, well, it sounds like a personal problem.
Well done.
Well,
it's an open structure. It's not like it's, I mean, I think that we could put that as a condition on it, that it requires it to be an open structure and remain that way rather than being enclosed at some point. I think that would be a fair condition. It sounds like that's in line with what they're wanting to do anyway, so.
Well, I'd also add, I'm not an arborist, but a 26-inch maple is a pretty good size maple. My guess is that's a 50 or 60-year-old tree, and I do think that, I agree. I think that just looking at it, it's not scale, but I think there's a hardship here. And yeah, you could move it over, but then I think that's just going to, the way you would be backing in and out would be like you were at a central parking garage downtown.
First Tennessee or first.
Yeah, that's right. One of the downtown parking garages that you pay $20 to park and spend
5 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes backing in and out. So anyway, that's.
That first garage is awful. I hit my car twice in that parking garage.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion here, if that's okay. I'm make a motion that we approve the variance as presented with the hardship of the tree and the existing conditions of the properity.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes 4-2. So, okay, thank you. Did anybody show up for, that is end of our docket. Did they show up for 63?
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I meant to cover that before we started this case. I did. I was able to call the applicant. They are wanting to postpone till August 4th to give them time to talk to Public Works and Planning Commission about their sign.
Okay, and do we need to vote on that? Remind me.
It would be best if I had a motion, yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that because they didn't get approval from planning and they wanted they need to get NDOT to approve. So I'll make a motion. We postpone it till August 4th. Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so 63 is postponed until August 4th. Do we have any other business before we adjourn?
No, sir. Just a reminder, we'll see everyone back at MPS at the next meeting.
Okay. Don't come here next meeting. Don't come here next meeting. Other place, right.
Unless you want to vote.
What's that? Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.